Okay, here we are with some instruction on Chapter 3, which is all about the teacher's influence on the student's learning. Now, going back to what teaching is not presenting, discussing, organizing, lecturing, any of those activities. It is guiding another into learning. And in guiding another into learning, not just focusing on what the teacher does, sometimes it will be presentation, sometimes it will be non-presentation. So we're going to talk about the four major characteristics and think about it with your own teacher. You think back, oh, who was my favorite teacher? Was it because they really knew the subject well and that really impressed you? That they really wanted you to learn, that they really wanted to teach? That they established some sort of relationship with you and they cared about what was going on? Or they knew when to get involved and when to step back? Let's go through each one of these and talk about them. So when I talk about knowledge, I'm talking about content, okay? Specifically like with math. Since teaching is guiding another person to do it, let's draw a little picture here. Here's some mountain ranges. Imagine going on a hike where you're going to head up here and then go and travel over here and around this mountain and get up to this peak here. When you're in the middle of this, it's nice to know that you're following somebody who has been down that path before and knows where you're going. The whole purpose of having knowledge, content knowledge, knowledge about math, and really understanding the subject is that you can guide somebody else to do that. In fact, the more relevant knowledge, and it must be relevant, the more relevant knowledge you have on a subject, if that increases, that will directly impact the learning of the student. And you say, well, why is that? Well, because the better you know this path that they are trying to traverse themselves, the more you're able to prepare them for what they're going to encounter, the more you're able to help them debrief and understand where they are and where they're headed. And so there is a caution with this that it's got to be relevant knowledge. Now, you may have run into some teachers that know a great deal of math, but all that knowledge about upper level calculus doesn't help them connect with students on algebra. What I'm talking about is relevant knowledge. For example, in fractions, something that's really important is when you understand what a over b, what a numerator actually is. Where did that come from? What a denominator is. Like when you get asked a question by a student, hey, how come when you take two fractions and add them together, the numbers on the bottom don't add? If you answer with, well, that's just the way it is, you haven't actually gone down into the relevant knowledge. To explain it, saying a denominator is a label, and the labels don't change when you add them, like 5 pigs and 3 pigs. You get 8 pigs. The pigs didn't change. That will help them in understanding why it takes place. Or slopes, or solving equations, or what things just fall out of the sky that we have to accept, and what things actually have a reason in math. So that's what knowledge is. All right, let's move on to teaching. Teaching. Is the teacher motivated? Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, a teacher that really wasn't there to help others learn. Now, what is it not? It's not somebody who's really excited to do presentations. It's not somebody who wants to hear themselves talk. It's also not somebody who wants to just show how much they know. This is somebody who really is interested in presenting stuff or organizing exercises to help other people get this knowledge. That's what this motivation to teach or this commitment to teaching is all about. Are they studying what takes place for somebody to learn? You can tell this really quick, and students will be able to pick up on this very quickly with a tutor. If you're there and you're not really interested in whether or not they want to learn, they know it. And you've been able to tell that in the past as well with the teachers that you've had. Both of these, knowledge and teaching, knowing real stuff, students can pick up on if you don't know your stuff, and it really damages their relationship with you, as with teaching. This one we're going to talk about right here. There are a few quotes that are pretty fascinating. One of them says, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. There's another one that I've heard about education. It says, those who can, do. Those who care, teach. Wow. There's another one that's very interesting. And a third one that says, they may not remember what you told them, but they will remember how you made them feel. It's very interesting. Often math teachers that are really cold and unfeeling focus everything on whether or not the student is gaining knowledge. Is it possible that the student could struggle with knowledge, but yet they still feel that the teacher really cares whether or not they are learning? Now, in the BYU-Idaho learning model, it talks about students and teachers loving, serving, and caring for one another. The epitome of this is charity. That's really what the epitome is. Now, we're not talking about unhealthy relationships here. We're talking about things that match up with D&C 50, things that are edifying, uplifting, where he that preacheth and he that receiveth are edified and rejoice together. This relationship that is built is an integral part of teaching. Now, some really focused math folks will think it's not really that important. Well, out of 138 strategies, a meta-analysis showed that this was number 11. Student-teacher relationship was number 11 in helping students to achieve. All right, let's look at the last one. Involvement level. Now, you'll notice that sometimes you've got to be right there, a high level of involvement where the teacher is right there instructing you and guiding you through stuff. Some other times, you don't need so much, and you need low involvement. And part of your job as a tutor is to know whether or not you need to be in there and take charge and instruct the student in a lot of stuff, present stuff to them because they really have a very low self-esteem, motivation, they don't have a lot of background in it, or do they have enough background where you need to take a step back, where you need to let them work on it, where you need to, in the words of Crush from Finding Nemo, let's see how Squirt does flying solo. This is part of your job as a tutor, because if you have too high of involvement, you may take away the learning from the student. If you have too low of an involvement, they may be very frustrated and feel like they're spinning their wheels. So all of these are very important. To summarize, we're going to look at all of these and let's talk about them in a gospel context. When you have Christ, let's talk about it. Does he have a knowledge of the gospel? Of course he does. He's the source of it. Does he have a knowledge of all the characteristics and attributes you're trying to learn? Patience, diligence, charity. Of course he does. Is he motivated to present you with opportunities to learn those things? Absolutely he is. He's the epitome of this right here. You know he will give up everything to help you learn when you want to. Seek and ye shall find, ask and ye shall receive, knock and it shall be opened unto you. That whole thing right there. He will bend over backwards to help you learn. What kind of relationship does he have with us? Yeah, exactly. That's why charity is the epitome of this one. And the involvement level. He could do a lot of stuff for us, but he chooses not to. And in that sense, even though it's on a much smaller level, this is the kind of pattern that you guys will be following in being excellent, outstanding tutors. He is the master teacher, and as you focus on these 4 areas, you'll become a much better tutor as well. Good.